Welcome to the AA Podcast, our little corner of the web where we are not afraid to discuss tough questions like,
when did nutrition, health, movement, and stress management become alternative medicine?
Where we embrace challenges in all aspects of life to become healthier and stronger versions of ourselves.
And where food and movement are the best kinds of medicine, and cooking meals at home is a revolutionary act. Welcome back to another episode of the AA Podcast. This is Ashley Olson.
And I'm Andrea Crane.
We are going to be talking today about something that should be very timely, as I know most of my clients are dealing with this right now.
As is your co-host, Ashley Olson.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking colds and flu. Oh my. So, before we get into that, though, we are going to share our weekly Bible verse, which mine is coming from John 14:27. And that says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let it be afraid."
I love that one. Okay, so mine comes from Mr. Alistair Begg. I get his Truth for Life daily. It is amazing. He's an incredible writer, but I also love his accent.
Oh,
So,
yes.
anyway, his verse of the day was James 1:22. Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only. And normally we stop there, right? But the next two words are deceiving yourselves. So the whole verse is be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. So Alistair always puts a fine point on it by
I
using
like
the
it.
whole verse. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
It's funny. We were at Bible study last night and we were talking about knowledge versus, just knowing things
Mm.
versus actually doing and acting
Yeah.
out on it.
Oh,
So,
well, there you go. All right.
yeah.
So very timely.
Yeah. So today we are going to talk about colds and flus because, well, it's that time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's already bad enough that the sun sets at 4 freaking o'clock here,
Right?
basically, mid at the heist of winter, which
Mm.
thank goodness I have to look at it half full, glass half full, because we only have 3 more weeks of true darkness, and then it gradually starts getting lighter.
Yeah, it actually should be getting lighter now, right? We're past the solstice. I thought we gained daylight.
Nope. I believe it's on the 20.
Oh,
Well, we're dropping this episode. It'll be right around where this episode drops will be the solstice. So it
okay.
happens right before Christmas.
Okay. Oh, I was wrong. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Which
ready
is
for it.
why Christmas is where it's at, if you didn't know. Because,
Yeah, I did because it's Saturnalia.
yep. So
Yeah.
the more you know.
Oh boy, can we get into a can of worms here? We better get back to colds and flus. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
gosh. Okay.
Mhm.
So there are things that I did prior to meeting Andrea for this time of year, but she has enlightened me and given me more wisdom over the
Changed your
years.
world, brought sunshine and
Yes.
rainbows.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
So we were going to share that with you guys today. So, Andrea, what is just some basic 101 things everyone should be doing,
Mm.
especially this time of year, but even year round?
Okay, so yeah, thank you for this question. This was not planned, but so
Hey,
little
we're
is.
just keeping you on your
That's
toes.
right. We're just flying by the seat of our pants here. No, I love this question because actually I did want to talk about this. There are so many things that I do not recommend that people do year long. So there are a lot of supplements that are good for a period of time. Like, you need to pulse them and then get out. Stop taking them. You don't need to take them all the time. So I think people get into this mindset that, well, if I take it through the winter, then I need to take it all the time. No, you don't. Not necessarily. So that's not a hard and fast rule. Vitamin D is one of the exceptions, and that's absolutely at the top of my list for. A supplement to make sure that you're taking. And I also just want to preface this discussion with, if you're eating like a jerk face, then you can't you can't out supplement your poor diet. Um, and in fact, I've been telling my patients, and it's so wonderful being in clinic and getting to counsel patients, because I'm actually speaking to myself, and it just reinforces messages to myself. Like, I'm certainly not speaking from on high, because I struggle like everybody else does.
Mhm.
Um, but it helps me to reinforce messages to myself. So I have been telling patients that, look, I know we are in holiday full swing of holiday season. Like, right after Halloween, it just all kind of snowballs and rolls right into New Year's. So
Mhm.
what I've been telling people to do is go through your calendar and pick, like, pick several days. You pick the number of days. Pick 4 days, pick 5 days, pick 7 days. I don't care. Just pick a number of days that you are going to allow yourself to enjoy the holiday food and the cooking and the fellowship that comes with it. So if you know you've got special days coming up, like, pick those days as, okay, I'm going to relax any rules that I have around eating, or any um, I'm going to relax my plan on those days. But on the other days, stick with it.
Mhm.
And so don't just let this become like a slide pell-mell into, like, the worst shape of your life by New Year's. Um, so anyway, I'm trying to do that as well. So again, not speaking from on high, just trying to come up with solutions for reasonable, manageable ways to do this, and not get out of control. So, okay. Now, once you've picked your days, then keep the sugar to a low roar, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the first on my supplement list is vitamin D. I recommend, especially people at our latitudes, and Ashley, you are included in this.
Mhm.
Colorado is actually at a lower latitude. You are more towards the equator than I am here in Idaho. And so we are essentially worse off than where you are. But you're still not great in terms of latitude. So a lot of people think that, well, if I get out, like, we have these bluebird days here in Idaho, and you've certainly got them in Colorado, where you can go out in a t-shirt, you can go out on your porch, you can put shorts on, and it's glorious. And people think, well, I'm getting vitamin D on those days, but you
Mm.
aren't.
Yeah.
This time of year, it has to do with the angle of the sunlight and the latitude of your location. And those two things come together to allow you to get the types and the wavelengths of sunlight that are required in order for your skin to make that conversion to vitamin D. And that doesn't happen in the wintertime. So, at our latitudes, we do not convert to vitamin D. You can go out there in your all together and dance naked for the neighbors, and you're not getting any vitamin D. So, um, now that's why I recommend people take 10,000 units daily. But keep in mind, with all of my patients, I am testing their vitamin D levels every single year. So
Mhm.
I know where they are. Now, if someone's got a vitamin D level of 80 going into the winter, I am not recommending that they take 10,000 units a day. That's ridiculous.
Is it a scale of 0 to 100?
Well, not really. And it depends on the labs, what their reference range is. For my patients, I have a functional range that I like to see, and that's generally between 50 and 80.
Yeah.
And so that's where I like to see people's vitamin D.
Because normal can go as low as like, if
Oh,
you're looking at normal, it's like
30.
30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, and people with autoimmunity, again, another animal entirely, and I include myself in this. I take 10,000 units year round.
Ok you do, okay,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
alright.
Yeah, I sure do. So
Now,
yeah.
question on that too is, so in the summer months when we're getting more vitamin D,
Mm-hmm.
why are you still taking that much?
Because I am riddled with autoimmunity and it is
Okay,
so important. I would rather be too high than too low. Um, and as well, I have never been too high.
okay.
So yeah.
Also, what is there an optimal time during the year to get your
Mm-hmm.
vitamin D levels checked?
Oh, to get them checked, I really like to get them checked. September, October, just to see what we're going into winter with. And you can certainly get them checked now. You can get them checked at any point.
Mhm,
But our physiological nadir or the physiological low is typically in February, March. That's when you've really depleted your reserves, and hence, the spring colds, which are just nasty, like the flus and
mhm.
the colds and the things that people are susceptible to in the springtime, and that real early springtime, late winter. That's when your D levels are at their lowest.
Okay. One last question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay to do a supplement that's a week once a week, or do you like to see it
Um,
daily?
I don't mind that. That's fine, and that's been shown over and over again to be very effective. So yeah, I mean, people can take like a 50,000 unit vitamin D. You can take that once a week,
Okay.
and that's totally fine. Now, I do want to give this caveat. If you've got, again, with my patients, I take a very thorough health history. I want to know if there's any cardiovascular disease in first degree relatives. I want to know if they
Mhm.
have history of cardiovascular disease. Um, what does their cholesterol look like? What is your blood pressure? Well controlled, those kinds of things that affect the cardiovascular system. I do not recommend people with cardiovascular history taking unopposed vitamin D. And without getting too far into the weeds here, there is a dance done with calcium, vitamin D, and then another vitamin called vitamin K.
Mhm.
And so I will typically, for those patients, and in fact, for myself as well, I have autoimmunity that predisposes me to arterial plaquing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a hallmark of this disease. And so I absolutely take 10,000 units with K2. And that's what I recommend my patients do too if they have that kind of history.
All right. And if you don't, is it fine to still take it?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, we may continue.
Thank you. Keeping me on track. So I guess the next one is zinc, and zinc is kind of all the rage within the last few years or so. So maybe you recall, do you remember this preparation called Zicam, where people
Mhm.
would stick these things up their noses that were impregnated with
Yeah.
zinc and rub it around in their noses? Well, guess what they found out about that? That overload of zinc, it actually worked pretty well for rhinoviruses, in terms of keeping them out of the nose. But what they found is that explosion of zinc topically applied led to some olfactory problems. So you could literally lose your sense of smell, with with those zinc sticks, which is not funny.
No.
Yeah, not not funny. I'm sorry.
Do
Um,
not laugh.
not laughing. But zinc is one of those, so please don't put it up your nose. But zinc, I like oral zinc, 50 to 75 milligrams a day. This is one of those that I like to pulse dose. So if there's someone that I need them on zinc for a longer period of time, like for instance, if they're a thyroid patient, if they have low testosterone, heck, if they're a Botox patient, then zinc is something good to take. However, I like people to take a break. So, take it for 4 weeks, be off one, or take it for 3 weeks out of the month and be off one. I like to pulse zinc. And
Okay.
for colds and flus, take it at the first sign of illness and take for about 10 days.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Next. So,
Vitamin C.
you betcha. Yeah. So, vitamin C is great. And So I'm a nutritionist prior to my nursing escapades. And so people might be screaming out there, where is the food sources of all these things? Yes, I am with you. I hear you. And I am all in on food sources. However, and vitamin C is a big one here. So if we're talking the vitamin C that is contained in like an orange, that's what always comes up, or peppers. So citrus fruits, peppers, yes, it's fantastic to eat those and to kind of top off your vitamin C. But when we're going after an illness, we really need supra physiological doses of these supplements. And so that is why I'm recommending the um, supplemental formulation rather than food, for anybody wondering. And vitamin C, you can't get 1,000 milligrams from any food that there is.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to eat a truckload of oranges to get that. So I like for people to take 1,000 milligrams twice a day. You can actually bump this up, and so if you want to megadose vitamin C, you can certainly do that. I have recommended in the past for certain people that they continue to up their dose to bowel tolerance, because vitamin C will make your stools loose and then it will make you have diarrhea if you keep pushing the dose. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, giving that to bowel tolerance means when your stool starts to get loose, then back off, and that's your dose.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I know like when I'm sick, I tend to like especially real sick, like I'm home in bed sick.
Yeah. Uh
I'll
huh.
I'll bump it up
Mhm.
during those days.
Mhm. Very good. Um, and then the next one, I think I'll talk about elderberry next because this is one that people are very familiar with. I
Mm-hmm.
love elderberry. This is kind of in along the same vein of like what golden seal,
Oh yeah.
echinacea,
Mm-hmm.
elderberry. All of these are considered immunomodulators. So the way that they work is they kind of get in there and up regulate the immune system. Now, think about this though. Certain autoimmunity types, and this can be a very personal thing. It's not like we can say, oh, if you've got Hashi's, this is not for you. No, it's even more individual than that. It can
Mm-hmm.
be down to the individual person. People with autoimmunity, I would advise caution when using immunomodulators like this, like elderberry, like golden seal, like echinacea, because they can sometimes, in some people, they can activate autoimmunity or make your symptoms worse. So just keep an
Mm.
eye on that. If you're getting like these diffuse aches and pains, joint pain, things like that, and you just started taking some elderberry, back off on that. And get it out of your regimen, because it could be making things worse. But for all of you without autoimmunity or with well controlled autoimmunity, absolutely give it a try. I prefer the tincture to the syrup, um, unless you're avoiding alcohol or unless you're giving to a child. And then the syrup is great. But the tincture is a very concentrated solution. There is a brand called Umka that I really like. It's generally sold at like co ops or natural grocers or Whole Foods or places like that.
Okay.
Okay.
And I know there's
No, Mka. Ha 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 ha. Oh,
ah
that's very clever here in the morning. Yeah.
it's just getting
Okay.
crazy.
I know.
Okay.
I need to put the coffee down.
Uh, Never.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
um, let's see.
Next one.
Oh, yeah, let's do cod liver oil next,
Okay.
because that's my desert island food. If I only had one food that I could take with me, to a desert island, it would be cod liver oil. It's kind of just as liver is the perfect food, cod liver oil is the perfect liquid. It contains just amazing doses of vitamin D, vitamin A, omega 3s. It's fantastic. So it's a real arrow to have in your quiver when we're talking about immune boosting. I like for people to take a tablespoon a day during the winter, and then during the summer months, 1 to 2 teaspoons a day is fine.
Okay. Yeah, and I will be I think we talked about this maybe on a previous episode. But the oh, I just lost the name. What's the brand that you like?
Well, I like Nordic Naturals.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the Nordic Naturals makes one that is orange flavored and
Oslo Orange.
yep, and it is so good. Like I'll take it just by itself. So if you're like,
Mm.
I am not taking cod liver oil, that's disgusting. I
What is this?
literally
Oliver Twist? Yeah.
Yeah, I literally videoed myself waiting for, like, my facial reaction when I took it, and there was none, so
I remember that.
it was delightful, so
Yeah.
take your cod liver
So
oil.
so if it's not delightful to you and it kind of weirds you out swallowing fat, I get that. And so what I have people do who are kind of uninitiated to taking oils like this, I have them chase it. Don't chase it with water. You've got to chase it with a fat containing liquid. Because
Mm,
otherwise it will leave your mouth coated, and that's what people object to. So chase it with something like milk. If you're avoiding dairy, you can take it with a nut milk, like any kind of liquid that contains some fat, and that will kind of police up all the remaining cod liver oil and wash it down.
alright, perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So next, bone broth.
Sure.
So bone broth, always recommend that you make your own unless you are independently wealthy. Then what the heck? Go buy it. But yeah, bone
So,
broth,
I'm not
right?
independently wealthy, but, what about the Kirkland brand? Is that
Uh, I don't know. Any of these mass-produced formulations, I'm a little leery of. Just because when you look into, and I've been making bone broth for gosh, well over a decade now, and I mean, I really looked into this when I first began this journey. And when you look into how it's made, the length of time that those bones need to settle, the ingredients that go in there, the um I guess the simmer time would be the biggest thing, and I just don't think big companies are probably doing that.
alright,
So I don't know. Just keep a bag in your freezer, and anytime you have bones, put them in the bag and
okay.
then just get them out. I separate mine by poultry um, and like red meats like pork or beef. Um, and yeah, I'll make poultry. I made turkey bone broth this
Mhm.
with my Thanksgiving turkey carcass, and it was amazing. That's probably my favorite bone broth of all. But yeah, just save bones, save vegetable scraps. There's a million recipes for how to make bone broth online, and yeah, let it cook for a couple of days. The poultry really only needs to cook for 24 to 36 hours, but the bigger animals, yeah, cook it for several days, and you'll be amazed.
Alright.
Yeah,
Guess I'll be doing that.
yeah, please do that. No, it's amazing stuff. And so, okay, the next one has been getting tons of play lately because
Yeah.
I right? There's that one brand that they keep interrupting, Amra or
Armra,
something like
yeah,
that. Yeah,
mhm.
whatever. Have you looked up the price on that?
No,
Oh my
but I can
gosh.
only imagine that it's,
I did. I did. Okay, so the colostrum that I
oh
get,
my gosh.
right? You just looked it up. The colostrum that I get is like maybe between $5 and $10 an ounce.
Oh my
This
gosh.
stuff is about $36 an ounce. Um, to get
You're paying for the name, people.
Well, yeah, and you're paying for, like, they're trying to become the next collagen, I feel.
Yeah.
Um, and so and this is why I wanted to talk about that. Hey, you don't need to take this stuff all the time. Um, Colostrum is, let's talk about what it is first of
Yeah,
all.
because I actually don't know.
Okay, so colostrum, all mammals make colostrum. All milk giving animals make colostrum. So humans make colostrum. When women feed their babies, it's that first really concentrated milk that mothers make. And
Okay.
so it's extremely important in terms of building that baby's immune system, but also providing the baby's first antibodies. They actually come from the mom because the baby's immune system isn't primed yet. So a newborn is really very vulnerable, and that's why in fact, in the hospital, we call colostrum liquid gold, because it's antibodies, it's prebiotic fibers, it's probiotics. It's like this life-giving liquid that babies really need, and it helps to colonize their guts. It helps to protect them with antibodies straight from the mother. So there are generalized antibodies that are in colostrum, and cows make colostrum too, obviously. And so all of these forms of colostrum that you're seeing on the market now are forms of bovine or cow colostrum. So this
Okay.
is the first milk that a cow gives after she's given birth. And it's full of antibodies. And that can be very helpful for certain conditions. It can be very helpful for gut healing. It can be very helpful for um, coughs, colds, flu. But you ought not be taking it every single day. And that's what these folks are. They're kind of perpetuating this drumbeat message of colostrum every day. And when you see how much they're charging for this stuff, that is ridiculous. Now, so just on GP, no, just no. I like, again, giving it for certain time periods depending on what the patient is dealing with. So,
So what would be an example?
well, I would take colostrum for about 10 days, 7 to 10 days, if you're starting to feel like you're getting sick. If you feel like you are going to be exposed, take colostrum for a few days, take it for a week, but then get off of it. You just don't need to be washing your system in antibodies all the time.
All right. And then that would just be it, like just around those times.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and there are other conditions where I would advise someone to take it maybe for a little longer periods of time, but that's when we're doing some pretty intensive gut work, stuff like that.
Okay. Awesome. Well,
Okay.
saving you some money here,
There
people.
you It's a public service. Oh my gosh. And so we've got some brands that I really like that are in our show notes. So go there, and I like getting the powder because you can get a nice big scoop and kind of stir it up in some milk, and it tastes very similar to malted milk.
Oh,
If you remember, do you remember the like getting the powdered malt? It's the difference between malts and shakes. There's a malted milk that they would put in, um, and it just gives, the only way I can describe it is this kind of malty flavor. But anyway, you'll recognize it if you taste it. Um, but it's not objectionable at all. My kids will drink it. In fact,
mm,
Gavin and I just had some this morning.
all right.
So,
Very good.
mhm. um, oh, okay. So, um, mucus. Let's talk about mucus. Um, so one thing that I really like, if you're having a productive cough, if you are needing to get stuff and move it up and out of your respiratory system, then I know that there are mucolytics that are on the market, like guafenicin, what's it called, mucinex.
Mhm.
That's fine. It's also Robitussin. Robitussin is guafenicin. It is a it's to deal with mucus and break it up and get it out. However, there's something that's even more effective, and it's a natural compound. It's called N-acetylcysteine. Um, we actually use a form of this to treat cystic fibrosis patients.
Mm.
It's called Mucomist. It smells like the worst rotten eggs you have ever smelled in your life. Like it is the most hideous smell. But that's because of sulfur ions that are attached to the molecule. It's got a lot of sulfur in it. But N-acetylcysteine as an amino acid, it it, it breaks up sheets of mucus. And so it works in cystic fibrosis patients to break up the copious thick mucus that their bodies are making, so that their cilia can then move it out of the body. And it certainly works. And in acetylcysteine, or NAC, you've probably seen it used for all kinds of things, but this is just one more thing that it can be used for.
Okay.
Okay. Also, lots of water. You cannot move mucus without lots of water. You can take all the guafenicin in Walgreens, and if you don't have water, you are not moving that stuff out. So it does you no good to break up the mucus and then not give it enough water, not to have not enough water in the system to uh, wash it out.
It's something, that my family always did, and I still do too when I know I'm getting either stuffy or whatever, is, uh, quercetin with bromelain.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I love quercetin. That is definitely something that you can take. There's a lot of quercetin in apple peels and in garlic. It's a it's a great what it is a mast cell stabilizer. So if you're having symptoms like runny nose, things that are histamine-ish, right? So like runny nose, watery eyes, itchy nose, itchy eyes, those allergic kinds of symptoms that sometimes go along with colds and flus, quercetin is fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm a big believer in it.
It's great. It's
Yeah.
great. Okay, so now should we talk about strep for a minute?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. So strep is, and I'm talking about streptococcal pharyngitis, so like legit bacterial strep. Um, so first of all, I just want to say I do not mess around with strep. I am as crunchy as they come. But I prescribe antibiotics for strep, period. So, I am going to tell you about something that I have used for strep in the past, but this is not instead of antibiotics, and I'm hoping everybody is hearing me. Um, strep can have some, and everybody knows about rheumatic fever. It can cause valvular heart disease. There are just some long, far-reaching consequences of strep, but there are also consequences to using round after round after round after round of antibiotics.
Yeah.
So, I just want to give this little concoction because I believe that I am a strep carrier, and there was a time when I was really, really sick for several years, and I got strep after strep after strep. And I finally stumbled upon this concoction here that I'm going to talk about, and it stopped me from getting those rounds of strep.
Well, that's so funny you said that because I'm also a carrier, and so I would
Mm,
constantly get quote unquote strep. I'd have
mhm,
all the symptoms. I'd go get my throat swabbed. It'd come back positive, and
mhm,
then my mom finally, after like literally rounds and rounds of antibiotic and getting strep and
mm,
sick,
mhm.
she said, "Can you please do a blood test?"
Yeah.
Instead of the throat swab, and the blood test ended up coming back negative that I had strep, but it showed that I was a carrier for strep.
Right.
And so I wasn't needing necessarily all those antibiotics every round,
Mm,
but I
mhm.
was I was determined a carrier.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to
and
ask
this
my
is a
mom
problem.
if she did something similar with the honey garlic cayenne. I highly doubt I took that as a
You would remember if
kid.
you did.
But yeah, once she figured I was a carrier, we did other methods to help cure
Yeah.
whatever I had. So talk about that a little bit. What's the difference
Well,
between a carrier and actually having strep?
yeah, so this is a really sticky kind of subject here because um people definitely are carriers. In fact, have you ever wondered why you haul your kid in, they swab for strep, they give you an antibiotic, you go away and they never swab again. Have you ever
Right.
wondered why?
I mean,
I mean, they
yeah.
don't know if it's gone, right? So
Mhm.
why don't they swab again? This
Mhm.
is the reason we don't swab again because you could come back positive time after time after time. If that is a part of your normal pharyngeal flora, you will come back positive with every swab. So really, we are looking at clinical symptoms. If you have, and it's called a hot potato voice, so it your voice changes when those tonsils get enormous, right? The white patchy tonsils.
Mhm.
um your voice changes, and it we call it a hot potato voice, but it literally sounds like you're talking around a mouthful of really hot potatoes. And there's this weird quality to it, but you'll know it if you hear it. And so there's that, there's headache, there's often strep does not come with a cough. um, so there's this cluster of clinical symptoms that we look for. And then if you meet certain criteria, then we'll go ahead and swab you. And if it comes back positive, so this is the deal. If we test for it as clinicians, we own the results and we have to do something about it.
Mm.
So if I swabbed a kid after I gave antibiotics and they came back positive for strep, I would have to treat again with antibiotics. That would be my clinical duty. So, let's talk about what we can do in the interim to kind of like if someone is getting strep over and over and over again. There is a mixture of honey, garlic, and cayenne that you can use. Now, folks, this is not for the faint of heart, and I know that. This is for the desperate. Um, and I was. um, but I can't eat this stuff anymore because I had so much of it. But I'm telling you, it was really a game changer for me. So you mix what was it? About a tablespoon of honey. Okay, first let's start with the garlic. So take like 4 regular cloves of garlic and chop them up really, really small and let them sit out in the open air for about 15 minutes. This will activate antimicrobial compounds within garlic if it is allowed to sit. Okay? So you let it sit for about 15 minutes, then you mix it with a tablespoon of honey, and then you put like a quarter of a teaspoon or an eighth, actually start with an eighth of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And you swirl it all up, and then you take little bits of it every 1 to 2 hours for a few days. And is it gross? Yes. It is terrible. It is terrible. In fact, the just the reminder of it kind of makes me want to throw up a little bit.
Oh
But
no.
but I'm telling you, if you can tolerate it, it's fantastic. And again, not in lieu of antibiotics. I have to keep saying that. So
Yeah.
the other thing that I want to tell you about, if you are thinking that someone in your life, generally a kid or you, if you're thinking that you might be a strep carrier, there is a strain of probiotics, and I
Mm.
recommend this all the time. Um, there's a strain of probiotics, and it is produced by Now. The brand is Now, NOW. I love that brand. They're affordable, they make good stuff. I really respect them. And it's called Oral Biotic, ORAL Biotic. And you can get it, it's shelf stable. Um, And so you just let one of those dissolve in your mouth several times a day while you're symptomatic, or during periods where you would normally get strep. Some people get this cyclical strep and they know about the time of year when it's coming, and so start doing these lozenges a few times a day. um, and that is a proven strain of probiotic against strep.
Awesome.
Uh-huh. You're welcome.
Is it so I just pulled it up. It
Oh,
says it supports ear, nose, and throat health. So
mhm.
somebody's gonna read that and be like, "Oh, well, what else should I be taking it for?"
And I don't know. I don't know what
Okay.
else you should be taking it for. I just know that I did a lot of research again because I was just in the throes of just, this never-ending hell of strep. And so I did a lot of research, and there was one particular bacteria that had research behind it against strep and for strep carriers. And that was it. And it's in that now formulation.
All right. Very good.
Okay. Um, and then finally, I think this is where we'll land unless you've got something else, but um, I wanted to talk about sugar. So, we've known for a very long time that sugar suppresses the immune system. Um, However, within the last couple of years, there were some mice experiments done that finally gave us some insight into why this happens. And I just thought I would share that with you guys because I find it terribly interesting. So, you may or may not, I don't know. But when you eat sugar, it suppresses your immune system. And this is like, you know, uh, I think the numbers that I saw were the equivalent of about 50 to 100 grams of sugar, which is nothing. That's nothing.
Mm-mm.
Um, and this includes like trash processed carbohydrate with no fiber.
Mm.
So anyway, that's the kinds of foods that I'm talking about. But it suppresses your immune function for hours after you eat it. So when you think about, being at the parties and being around people and being inside and around sick people, when you're eating together and eating, just holiday trash like we do, it's important to monitor that sugar consumption and don't just let yourself go crazy for the whole season long. Otherwise, like you'll be sick all winter.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that this happens, perhaps most of you are familiar with a blood test called a hemoglobin A1C.
Mm-hmm. It's all
Okay.
the rage right now.
Well, of course, and I run this on my patients. If they're struggling with blood glucose, then I run it every 90 days. Otherwise, I'll run it once a year just to see where we're at. And essentially, what this looks at is we know that when you have blood sugar, like there's sugar in your blood, which there always is, there has to be. You can't go down to zero, you're dead. Um, but the degree to which the blood sugar is in your actual blood will show up because sugar will stud red blood cells. So it will stick, like molecules of glucose will stick to the outside of red blood cells. And we can look at your red blood cells and see what your average blood sugar was for the last 90 days based on how covered your red blood cells are in sugar. So you can think of sugar as like it coats things. It sticks to things. Well, your immune components are apparently no different because what they found with these mice studies is that is the mechanism. We didn't know why sugar suppressed your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
But what they found in these recent studies is that your immune components, like the cells of your immune system, are also studded with this sugar and to a degree where they can't work. So that's why you get the immunosuppression after you eat a bunch of sugar. That glucose goes and sticks to your immune cells and they can't function.
Hmm.
Isn't that
That's
cool?
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, There you go. New mechanism elucidated just within the last couple of years.
So avoid
Hmm.
sugar, basically,
Well, yeah. I mean,
to a certain degree.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I don't like being a hammer on people. I like to be realistic, and I like people to enjoy themselves. I mean, food and fellowship and fun, that's all a part of this time of year. But that's why I say, like, pick some days. Pick your days. And then enjoy the heck out of them. But then the rest of the days, just be realistic.
Totally. And one thing, too, make sure you're getting your electrolytes, folks.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Yes, thank you. Water. Oh, yeah,
Well,
water.
not just plain water.
Right.
Make sure, yeah,
Yep.
we talked about
Electrolytes
that.
in your water.
We're gonna, let's
Go
see.
listen to the other episode.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
this was a really good roundup of some basic supplements that we can take, especially during the dark winter months,
Mhm.
and even during the summer months to make sure that we are prepping our bodies and making sure that we have enough supplements in line with our nutrition. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
nutrition is king, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there's just some things that we cannot get with just
Yeah.
pure nutrition.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
So, all
Well,
right, stay well, friends.
absolutely. And if you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes, we would so appreciate a 5-star rating on whatever platform you are listening on. And the biggest compliment that we can receive is if you share our episodes with friends and family. So if you find us entertaining or informational or whatever,
What
just
whatever reason you keep coming back. Yeah,
exactly.
we'll take it.
Just click that little share button and spread the word, folks.
Yes.
All right. Well, we will wrap this up and we will catch you on the next episode.
Bye. The content provided in the AA podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. The information and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute medical advice.